Hello friends, welcome to Book Bites. Today, we'll talk about The Subtle Art of Not Giving a FCK by Mark Manson. Throughout this book discussion, we are using FCK instead of the full word FUCK. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a FCK by Mark Manson is a best-selling self-help book that challenges the traditional notions of happiness, success, and personal growth. Rather than offering empty affirmations or encouraging people to always look on the bright side, Manson offers a refreshing dose of reality. His central message is clear: you don't have to give a FCK about everything. Instead, you should carefully choose what really matters to you and let go of everything else. Manson begins by pointing out how modern culture pressures us to be extraordinary, to always be happy, and to pursue success non-stop. Social media adds to this pressure by constantly bombarding us with other people's highlight reels. As a result, people start to feel like failures for not being rich enough, beautiful enough, popular enough, or productive enough. But Manson argues that trying to be exceptional in everything is not only unrealistic, it's a recipe for unhappiness. The core of his philosophy revolves around the concept of values. What we choose to care about or give a FCK about determines the quality of our life. If we base our values on superficial things like money, fame, or how many likes we get on Instagram, we're setting ourselves up for constant disappointment. However, if we base our values on deeper, more personal truths like honesty, responsibility, or relationships, we'll find more lasting satisfaction. Manson's tone is intentionally raw and irreverent. He swears often, uses dark humor, and doesn't shy away from uncomfortable truths. This makes the book feel like a conversation with a brutally honest friend who cares about you enough to tell it like it is. The aim is not to depress or demotivate, but to free the reader from false expectations and toxic positivity. According to Manson, life is hard and problems are unavoidable. But happiness comes from solving meaningful problems, not from avoiding them. Another important idea in the book is the power of choice. We might not have control over everything that happens to us, but we always have control over how we respond. Manson emphasizes personal responsibility not in a moralizing way but as a source of power. Once you accept responsibility for your actions and reactions, you take control of your life. Through relatable examples, philosophical insights, and personal stories, Manson explores how embracing our limitations and failures can actually lead to strength. He criticizes the feel-good mindset that avoids pain and instead promotes a more grounded, resilient approach to living. He teaches that by caring less about things that don't truly matter, we make room to care deeply about what does. In essence, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a FCK is a guide for living a more focused, authentic, and meaningful life. It's not about not caring at all, it's about caring wisely. By the end of the book, readers are encouraged to rethink what they value, to accept the reality of suffering, and to find peace in letting go of the superficial. Let's explore the main concepts, point by point. Point 1. Choose what to give a FCK about. At the heart of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a FCK lies the foundational principle: you have a limited number of F2CKs to give, so choose them wisely. This concept isn't about becoming indifferent or careless. Instead, it's about becoming intentional and selective with your energy, time, and emotions. Life is short, and our mental bandwidth is limited, so the key to a better life is choosing what truly matters and letting go of the rest. Mark Manson argues that we live in a culture where we are encouraged to care too much about too many things. Every advertisement, every social media post, and every conversation seems to demand our attention and emotions. We're told to be prettier, richer, more successful, more admired. As a result, we get overwhelmed, anxious, and dissatisfied. But most of the things we care about, what strangers think of us, getting thousands of likes, being the smartest person in the room, are not meaningful in the long run. This point flips the script on what most self-help books preach. Instead of telling you to strive for greatness in everything, Manson says, stop caring about things that don't add true value to your life. Don't waste energy on being liked by everyone. Don't give a FCK about minor inconveniences. Don't get stuck in a loop of comparison and social validation. Because when you care too much about too many things, you dilute your power to care about what actually matters, like your values, relationships, growth, and purpose. But how do you know what to care about? Manson suggests we must examine our values. Are we caring about status, image, or being always right? Or are we caring about honesty, love, and contribution? When we adopt poor values, we end up giving too many FCKs about things that don't serve us. Good values help us focus our attention and emotions where they matter most. For example, imagine someone who constantly worries about what others think. They may spend hours editing their Instagram post, feel hurt by a friend's offhand comment, or stay awake at night replaying a moment when they looked foolish. They are giving their limited FCKs to the opinions of others, but if they shifted their value to authenticity instead of approval, they'd feel freer. They'd still care, but only about being true to themselves, not about impressing everyone. This idea is empowering because it gives control back to the individual. We can't control everything that happens to us, but we can control where we place our attention and emotions. By consciously choosing our battles, we conserve energy and find clarity. We stop chasing superficial happiness and start building deeper satisfaction. In short, this first principle teaches us that caring less isn't laziness, it's maturity. It's the wisdom of understanding that not all things are worth our concern. And by choosing our FCKs wisely, we live a life more aligned with who we truly are. Point 2. Happiness comes from solving problems. Mark Manson presents a bold but grounded idea. Happiness doesn't come from avoiding problems, it comes from solving them. This concept shatters the illusion many people carry that a perfect life is one free from struggles, pain, or difficulties. According to Manson, that's not how life works. Problems are a permanent part of life, and happiness is not the absence of problems, but the ability to deal with them. Manson explains that the quality of our life depends on the quality of our problems. Every person, no matter how rich or successful, has problems. A poor person may worry about having enough food. A middle-class person might worry about paying off a car loan. A rich person might worry about taxes, investments, or media criticism. Problems never disappear, they just evolve. What changes is how meaningful those problems are and how capable we feel when solving them. This means that avoiding problems is not a sign of a good life. In fact, when we try to avoid our problems by denying them, blaming others, or escaping through distractions, we often create even bigger problems. For example, someone who avoids dealing with their relationship issues might escape through alcohol or social media. But that avoidance only multiplies pain. On the other hand, when that person confronts the issue, communicates openly, and takes responsibility, the problem becomes an opportunity for growth, and solving it brings a sense of accomplishment and happiness. Manson uses the term shit sandwich to illustrate that every life choice comes with its own set of problems. If you want to be an artist, you have to be okay with the problems of rejection, criticism, and financial uncertainty. If you want to be a CEO, you must be willing to face high stress, leadership challenges, and sleepless nights. No path is free of difficulties. So the real question is not what do I want in life, but what pain am I willing to endure, or which problems am I willing to solve again and again. The better you get at answering that question, the more aligned your life will be with your values. This perspective shifts the focus from chasing a fantasy of comfort to embracing life as it is with its ups and downs. When we accept that problems are inevitable, we stop seeing them as interruptions and start seeing them as invitations to grow. We become emotionally stronger, more responsible, and more fulfilled. The process of solving meaningful problems becomes our path to real happiness. Manson's idea is that we should not look for a life without problems, we should look for a life with better problems. Problems that we choose. Problems that are connected to our values. Because when we solve problems that truly matter to us, we experience satisfaction, pride, and even joy. And that's where real happiness lives, not in a perfect life, but in a life we are actively building and improving. Point 3. You are not special. One of the most controversial and eye-opening ideas in Mark Manson's book is this: you are not special. At first, this may sound harsh or demotivating, but Manson uses this idea to break down the unrealistic expectations that modern society often places on individuals. He argues that the belief in being extraordinary can actually lead to anxiety, insecurity, and unhappiness. In today's world, we are constantly told that we are destined for greatness. We are bombarded with motivational slogans like, "You can achieve anything," "You're amazing just the way you are," and "You deserve to be happy all the time." These messages are well-intentioned, but they can create a distorted sense of reality. When people believe they must be unique, successful, and admired to be worthy, they start comparing themselves to everyone else and often fall short. Manson argues that embracing ordinariness is not about settling or lacking ambition. Instead, it's about freeing yourself from the pressure to be constantly extraordinary. Most people live ordinary lives, and that's perfectly okay. Happiness does not come from being special, it comes from living according to your values, accepting your limitations, and making a difference in small, meaningful ways. Believing you are special can also lead to entitlement, the feeling that you deserve success, recognition, or happiness without effort. Manson distinguishes between two types of entitlement. The first is believing you're better than others and deserve special treatment. The second is believing your problems are so unique that no one could possibly understand or help you. Both types are harmful. They prevent people from taking responsibility for their lives and from accepting the reality that life involves struggle, imperfection, and growth. Instead, Manson encourages humility. When you accept that you're not special, you become more open to learning, listening, and growing. You stop trying to prove your worth and start improving yourself in real ways. You stop obsessing over your flaws because you realize everyone has them. You stop seeking constant validation because you understand that self-worth comes from action, not praise. Let's take an example. Someone who thinks they're special may avoid starting a new job or project because they fear not being instantly great at it. Their ego says, I'm meant for something big, so I can't fail. But someone who accepts they're not special approaches the task with curiosity and persistence. They say, I might not be great at this yet, but I can learn. That mindset leads to real growth and fulfillment. In essence, realizing you're not special is liberating. It relieves you from unrealistic expectations, allows you to appreciate small joys, and helps you connect with others on a genuine level. You stop chasing a fantasy of perfection and begin living in reality. And in that grounded space, you find the strength to improve, contribute, and care deeply without needing to be extraordinary. Point 4. The value of suffering. One of the most powerful insights in the book is that our values determine the meaning of our suffering, and that not all suffering is bad. Some suffering leads to purpose, transformation, and fulfillment. Mark Manson teaches us that pain is an unavoidable part of life. But what makes the difference between a meaningful life and a miserable one is what we choose to suffer for. Manson explains that most people try to avoid pain at all costs. We scroll on our phones to escape boredom. We avoid difficult conversations to escape emotional discomfort. We chase comfort, pleasure, and distraction constantly. But the truth is, when we avoid pain, we often end up creating more of it. Real happiness and satisfaction come from choosing worthwhile things to struggle for, not from trying to eliminate struggle altogether. The key then is to choose values worth suffering for. For example, being a good parent requires sleepless nights, sacrifices, and emotional challenges. But if you value raising a loving, responsible child, then that suffering becomes meaningful. Writing a book may involve loneliness, self-doubt, and discipline. But if you value creativity and self-expression, that effort becomes rewarding. On the other hand, suffering for shallow goals like trying to impress strangers or always being right leads to frustration and emptiness. Manson's idea is that you can't escape suffering, but you can choose your suffering. The moment you accept this truth, you take back power over your life. Instead of asking, how can I avoid pain? A better question is, what pain am I willing to go through for what I care about? This is where true self-awareness and strength are born. He gives a personal example. For years, Manson wanted to be a rock star. He loved the fantasy of performing on stage, being admired, and living freely. But when he looked deeper, he realized he didn't love the process, learning instruments, practicing daily, booking gigs. He liked the outcome but not the struggle it required. That realization helped him let go of that dream. Later, he found joy and success in writing because he was willing to go through the hard work that writing demanded. This is the value of choosing your suffering wisely. This concept helps us make better life decisions. It reminds us that no job, relationship, or path is without challenges. But if we choose paths aligned with our values, the struggle becomes part of the joy. The suffering becomes worth it. Manson also connects this to maturity. A mature person accepts that suffering is a part of life and doesn't panic or complain when it arrives. Instead, they ask, what can I learn from this, or is this pain part of something I care about? In doing so, they find peace, even within discomfort. In summary, the value of suffering lies in our choice. We can't avoid pain, but we can make pain meaningful. And when we suffer for the right reasons, for love, growth, purpose, or contribution, that suffering transforms into strength and satisfaction. Point 5. You are always choosing. One of the most empowering ideas in the book is, you are always responsible for your life, because you are always choosing, even when it feels like you're not. Mark Manson emphasizes that while we cannot always control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond. This point is about taking full responsibility for our emotions, reactions, and decisions, no matter what the circumstances are. Many people go through life believing that they are victims of fate, other people's behavior, or bad luck. They say things like, I had no choice, or this happened to me. But Manson challenges this mindset by saying, you may not be responsible for everything that happens to you, but you are always responsible for how you interpret and react to what happens. This is a crucial distinction. For example, if someone crashes into your car, that may not be your fault. But how you respond, calmly resolving it or lashing out in anger, is your choice. If you lose your job, it may not be something you could prevent, but how you deal with the situation, whether you grow from it or let it destroy your confidence, is up to you. Manson tells us that responsibility and fault are not the same. You don't have to be at fault to take responsibility. Life will always be unfair at times. People will hurt you, things will go wrong, and situations will be beyond your control. But your power lies in taking ownership of your reaction. That's where growth happens. Taking responsibility puts you in control of your life. It stops you from blaming others, which only leads to helplessness and resentment. It helps you become proactive instead of reactive. When you start thinking in terms of choices, your life transforms. You begin to ask better questions. What can I do about this? How do I want to respond? What do I want to learn from this? These questions lead to clarity, strength, and forward momentum. Let's take a common example: a toxic relationship. Many people stay stuck in unhealthy relationships because they believe they have no choice. They fear being alone, they worry about hurting the other person, or they feel trapped. But Manson reminds us, you are choosing to stay, and you can also choose to leave. The moment you accept that, you stop feeling powerless and start taking action toward a better life. This point also teaches us that growth begins when we stop avoiding responsibility. When we admit that we are in control of our values, our responses, and our direction, we stop waiting for others to change. We stop waiting for life to be easy. And instead we start creating the life we want through conscious decisions, one choice at a time. In summary, you are always choosing. Even not choosing is a choice. And when you take full ownership of your choices, you stop being a victim and start becoming the author of your own life. Point 6. You're wrong about everything, but so am I. In this chapter, Mark Manson introduces a deeply humbling idea. We are all wrong about many things, and personal growth is about becoming a little less wrong over time. It's not just that other people can be wrong. We ourselves are constantly misjudging, misbelieving, and misunderstanding reality. This idea challenges the ego, but opens the door to growth and self-awareness. Manson argues that our beliefs are often shaped by emotion, past experiences, and limited perspectives. What we believe today with full confidence may turn out to be completely false tomorrow. Think about how people once believed the earth was flat, or that smoking was healthy. These beliefs were widely accepted, yet entirely wrong. Similarly, each of us carries personal beliefs about relationships, success, failure, self-worth, and happiness, many of which are flawed or outdated. The danger lies in attaching our identity to these beliefs. When we say things like, I am this kind of person, or I believe this is how the world works, we become resistant to change. We fear being wrong because it feels like a threat to who we are. But Manson suggests that acknowledging our mistakes, doubts, and ignorance is not weakness, it's strength. The more willing we are to admit we might be wrong, the more open we are to learning and improving. He gives the example of his own life. Beliefs he had in his 20s about love, work, and success completely changed over time, and this is true for most of us. Who you were 10 years ago probably believed things that seem silly to you now. So logically, it's likely that 10 years from now, you'll laugh at things you believe today. That's why it's important to hold our beliefs lightly, stay humble, and remain open to being corrected. This idea also affects how we view conflict. Many arguments are just two people defending their need to be right, rather than seeking truth or understanding. If both sides were willing to say, I might be wrong, let's explore this together, many conflicts would dissolve into respectful conversations. It's not about winning, it's about learning. Manson also points out that embracing uncertainty leads to freedom. When you stop needing to be right all the time, you free yourself from ego and defensiveness. You become curious, ask more questions, and actually listen. This shift changes how you relate to others and to yourself. Let's consider an example. Suppose someone thinks they're bad at relationships because of one failed experience. They carry that belief into the future, sabotaging every new relationship. But what if that belief is wrong? What if they've just never learned healthy communication? The moment they question their belief, they open the door to healing and transformation. In conclusion, the path to wisdom is not in having all the answers, but in constantly questioning what we think we know. We're all wrong, just hopefully a little less wrong every day. And when we embrace this, we grow with more grace, humility, and truth. Point 7. Failure is the way forward. Mark Manson turns traditional thinking on its head in this point by declaring that failure is not the opposite of success, it's a vital part of success. Most of us grow up fearing failure. We see it as something to avoid at all costs. We're taught to chase success, avoid mistakes, and protect our ego. But Manson argues that the most successful and fulfilled people are not those who avoid failure, but those who fail often and learn from it. The key message is simple, yet profound. Growth and progress only happen through repeated failure. You improve by doing something badly, learning from it, and doing it again slightly better. There is no shortcut. Whether it's writing, public speaking, relationships, business, or fitness, the process of becoming good at something is paved with errors, awkwardness, and setbacks. Manson uses a story about his experience starting a blog. In the beginning, no one read his posts. He got rejected by publications, he doubted himself. But he kept writing. He failed, learned, adjusted, and tried again. Eventually, those failures stacked up into experience, and his blog grew into a successful platform. This story reflects a universal truth. You cannot succeed without being willing to fail. One major reason people don't achieve their goals is because they're too afraid to look stupid or feel pain. So they procrastinate, make excuses, or avoid taking action altogether. But ironically, not trying is the biggest failure of all. Manson encourages us to redefine failure. It's not a sign of inadequacy, it's proof that we're trying, stretching, and moving forward. He also emphasizes the idea of action-based motivation. Most people think motivation leads to action. But Manson flips this. Action leads to motivation. When you feel stuck or unmotivated, don't wait to feel ready. Instead, take a small step even if it's messy. That small action creates momentum, which fuels motivation, which leads to more action. This is how change begins, not with inspiration, but with doing. Here's a relatable example. Imagine someone wants to get fit. They feel overwhelmed and don't know where to start. Instead of overthinking, Manson would suggest, do one push-up. Just one. That action, even if tiny, breaks the cycle of inaction. It signals to the brain, I'm doing something. And that creates energy for more effort. The people who succeed are not the most talented or lucky. They're the ones who keep failing and trying again. They learn faster because they take more risks. They improve because they're willing to be wrong. Failure isn't a barrier, it's a bridge. In conclusion, failure is not the enemy, it's the teacher. If you want to grow, succeed, or improve your life, you must stop fearing failure and start embracing it. Every failure brings you one step closer to being better. Fall, learn, rise, and repeat. That's the real path forward. Point 8. The importance of saying no. In this chapter, Mark Manson emphasizes the crucial idea that the ability to say no is one of the most important skills for a fulfilling life. He argues that the art of saying no is directly linked to how well we protect our time, energy, and mental health, and it's key to maintaining our focus on the things that truly matter to us. Manson points out that most people have a natural tendency to say yes to things in order to please others or avoid conflict. This is particularly true in our social and professional lives, where we often feel obligated to accept invitations, requests, or opportunities that don't align with our values or priorities. However, saying yes too often can lead to burnout, stress, and resentment. When you're constantly saying yes to everything, you're essentially giving away your energy and time to things that may not add value to your life. This is where the power of no comes in. Manson argues that setting boundaries by saying no allows us to preserve our emotional resources and direct our energy toward the things that truly align with our values and goals. By saying no, you are making a conscious choice to invest in what matters most to you, whether that's your family, career, health, or personal growth. Learning to say no doesn't mean being rude or dismissive. It simply means being clear about what you can and cannot do. Manson advises that when you say no to something, it should be because it's not aligned with your deeper goals or values. For instance, if you're offered an opportunity at work that doesn't align with your career goals or takes up too much of your time, saying no is an act of self-respect. Similarly, if a friend asks for your help when you're already stretched thin, saying no helps you protect your well-being and maintain healthy relationships in the long run. Manson also points out that saying no is not just about rejecting external requests, it's also about saying no to internal desires that aren't serving you. For example, saying no to negative self-talk, self-doubt, or distractions that keep you from focusing on what's truly important is just as powerful. By saying no to these internal influences, you can create more mental space for growth, creativity, and clarity. A key point here is that every time you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else. If you say yes to working overtime, for example, you're saying no to your health, your family, or your personal time. Every choice comes with trade-offs. Manson suggests that we should be mindful of these trade-offs and ask ourselves, what am I saying no to by saying yes to this? In summary, the power of saying no is not about being selfish. It's about protecting your values and priorities. It's about recognizing that your time and energy are finite resources and choosing wisely how to invest them. By saying no to the things that don't matter, you make space for the things that do. Point 9. And then you die. In the final chapter, Mark Manson introduces one of the most fundamental and grounding ideas of the book. Life is finite, and death is the ultimate reminder to prioritize what truly matters. This is not meant to be a morbid or depressing conclusion, but rather a call to action that life is short, and we need to spend our time on things that are meaningful to us, rather than getting caught up in trivial concerns or societal pressures. Manson uses the idea of death as a tool for perspective. The inevitability of death makes us realize that we only have a limited amount of time. In the grand scheme of things, most of the things we stress over, our social media profiles, our material possessions, our public image, are insignificant. The concept of death helps us refocus our attention on the things that truly bring us meaning, whether it's our relationships, personal growth, or pursuing something that we're passionate about. By reflecting on the fact that we will all eventually die, Manson encourages readers to ask themselves, what really matters to me? This question is crucial because it forces us to examine how we spend our time and what we give our energy to. We don't have infinite years to worry about trivial things like other people's opinions or competing in a race that isn't truly ours to run. Instead, we need to focus on what will matter to us on our deathbeds, our loved ones, the legacy we've created, the love and care we've given, and the life we've lived authentically. The point of this exercise is not to live in fear of death, but to use it as a motivator. The more we accept that life is finite, the more we realize that the things we often care about, whether they're superficial social pressures or trivial daily inconveniences, really don't matter in the long run. What matters is the deeper, more meaningful aspects of life. Manson also brings up the idea of values once again. By recognizing that we will die, we are reminded that our values are the lens through which we should approach life. The things that we prioritize, the things that we give our time and energy to, must be aligned with our values. This alignment will bring us peace and satisfaction, while living in discord with our values will lead to discontent and regret. Lastly, Manson acknowledges that this acceptance of death is a form of liberation. Instead of clinging to the idea of immortality or running from death, we should embrace it as a reminder to live more intentionally. When we are aware of our mortality, we stop getting distracted by things that don't matter and start focusing on creating a life that reflects our true desires and passions. In conclusion, death is a universal truth that forces us to reflect on what truly matters in life. By embracing this truth, we free ourselves from the burden of meaningless struggles and start living with purpose. Ultimately, it's not about the quantity of life we live, but the quality of the moments we cherish, the relationships we nurture, and the impact we leave behind. Conclusion. In The Subtle Art of Not Giving a FCK, Mark Manson challenges traditional views of happiness and success by urging us to redefine what we value and focus on. He argues that our culture has led us to believe that we should pursue constant positivity and endless success, but this approach leads to dissatisfaction and burnout. Instead, Manson advocates for the idea that we must choose what truly matters to us and let go of the rest. By embracing our limitations, accepting failure, and focusing on our core values, we can find more meaningful and lasting fulfillment. Manson emphasizes the importance of saying no to the things that drain us, whether it's societal expectations, toxic relationships, or the pursuit of superficial goals. He encourages us to take responsibility for our choices, even in the face of difficult circumstances, and to recognize that failure is an essential part of personal growth. By confronting the inevitability of death, we are reminded to live intentionally, prioritizing what truly enriches our lives rather than getting distracted by trivial matters. Ultimately, the subtle art of not giving a FCK teaches us to embrace discomfort, failure, and imperfection as the path to authenticity and personal development. Life is finite, and the only way to live a meaningful life is to give fewer but more deliberate and conscious FCKs about the things that align with our deepest values. Through this approach, we can find peace, clarity, and true happiness, not by avoiding life's difficulties, but by choosing how to face them with purpose.